Okay, hi. This is, we're getting down to the last minutes here. I'm going to be somewhat blinded by these lights, so if you want to ask a question, make a lot of noise. So I'm Greg Krehbiel, Adam Goldstein. We're going to talk about landing pages. And, okay. So the first question is, what is a landing page? It's something that's designed to get somebody to do something, right? It's a page that has a single focused objective. You want the person who goes to this page to take a certain action, right? Now, on any kind of a page, any internet page, the visitor is asking himself a couple questions. He's saying, where am I? How did I get here? What can I do? What is this page about? Well, the landing page, more than any other kind of page, has to be focused towards answering those questions. You want to make sure that the visitor knows exactly what they're supposed to do and how they do it. Now, I said a landing page is a single page. So is that a landing page? A pop-up box? What do you think? It's kind of hard to say. I don't really know technically if it's a landing page or not, but it has a single focused objective, right? You're trying to get the person to do one thing. Now, in this case, it's a little cluttered by having the other stuff behind it, but it is a page or a pop-up or a device on the internet designed to get somebody to do one thing. I'm sure they tested a lot about making this as effective as possible, but you're going to run into questions about when you're trying to deal with landing pages and you read articles on landing pages, trying to decide what exactly are the parameters. I think the most important thing to bear in mind is that it's a page where you're trying to get somebody to do something. So in that sense, that little pop-up is a landing page. Now, you have to ask, what's the goal? What is it that I'm trying to get this person to do? You've spent some money, you've done something to drive people to this page, so what is it you want them to do? And there's a phrase I read somewhere called conversion coupling. And what this guy meant by that is the bond between what brought the visitor to the page and the call to action or the goal. So you need to make sure there's as much as possible a connection between what brought them here and what it is they're trying to do. Now, what brought them here gets a little bit into that second question, who's the audience? Ideally, you want to have a specific landing page for every different type of audience that you're going to drive to that page. So, for example, you might have a different landing page for an email campaign than you would have for an AdWords campaign, because you're dealing with different audiences. If you have something, you're trying to drive people from your print magazine to a landing page, that's a different audience than the people who come there through search or the people who come there through email or through AdWords. Now, usually it's impossible to do all those different pages, but ideally you want to have a separate page for each audience because you're going to have different concerns with each group. Now, generally speaking, on landing pages, I try to think of three things. One is the basic rules of direct response are going to apply. The same things that work in direct mail, the same things that work in everything else we do are going to work on a landing page. Second, a big thing you should always keep in mind on a landing page is, I don't know, test it. We're going to get into testing later on. So you really don't know what kind of things are going to work and what things aren't going to work, so you try it and you test it. And then the third general rule is, when in doubt, do what Amazon does. Because Amazon does tons of testing, and they have lots and lots of experience with millions and millions of users. So if you're not sure what color should my button be or what kind of language should I use in this place, we don't have any other ideas, go to Amazon and do what they do because they've already tested through all that. Now, another big problem with landing pages, especially nowadays, is what are they on? We like to think of designing the page for a desktop, but not everybody's going to be on a desktop. So one of the issues that came up in a previous session on designing email for mobile is, what do you do if somebody gets your email on a smartphone and goes through to your landing page? How are you going to deal with them on the landing page in terms of getting them to fill out a form, or if you're trying to get them to make a purchase and they have to fill in their name and address and their credit card number and all that? That's difficult to do on a mobile device. So I don't really know the answer to that question. I've wondered if perhaps on mobile devices, it's better to use one-click or PayPal or something where they don't have to fill out all that stuff. But these are the kind of questions you have to ask yourself. When you're driving a particular audience to the landing page, you can't assume that they're going to be on a desktop computer. They might be on a tablet, they might be on a phablet, they might be on a phone. So you have to think about how you're going to deal with that problem.
I could just say,
yeah.
In our shop, we've noticed obviously an increase in mobile devices being used, but laptops and PCs are still dominant. So our mantra is kind of mobile friendly, but not mobile first. So it should be optimized, but not designed specifically for that device unless you know, you should be able to tell where that inquiry is coming from. We do see a lot of people getting our information on mobile and then going back to their computers and ordering there.
Yeah, and I think that's a key point. I've thought, wouldn't it be nice if on mobile you could have a little button that says, send this to my real computer? You know, because nobody wants to fill out a form on one of those little touchscreen things. It's awful. So it's interesting that you say people are getting it on mobile and then doing it later. I wonder if there's good ways to facilitate that. You know, in a previous session, somebody said, why not put a link on the mobile version of the landing page that says, email this to myself? You know, that might be a good way to do it. I'm not really sure. It's a new problem in how you're going to do commerce on these devices.
Right, and for our existing customers who are finding us on mobile, we are working on being able to link them to their record on our database, so we can say, oh, it's Greg Krehbiel, Kiplinger, 8th Street, and here's your credit card number, last 4 digits, and just make it an automated sale that way.
Right, yeah, it's a good idea. So responsive design, you guys know what that is? That's when you have different screen sizes and you turn them different ways and the page changes. That makes testing a landing page, back when it was still just on desktop, there's sort of a testing psychosis you can get into. You know, you're going to test all these different things and you're going to try all this stuff and there's no end to the things you can try. Well, now, when you're dealing with, I've got desktop and I've got tablets and I've got smartphones, and it gets even worse. So it's kind of hard to test everything. You have to pick which ones are going to be worth the time. Where's the sale taking place? This is really key, and that's why you might need to have different types of landing pages for different campaigns. If you have an email where most of the sale, most of the benefit copy, most of the this is a great thing has already been done in the email, the landing page might not need to have as much of the sales copy. On the other hand, if you're coming from a Google AdWords campaign where all they've seen is a headline and a couple words, you're going to have to do a lot more of the sale on the landing page in that case. So you have to think about the audience, think about how they got there, and what you have to do to make that work. Another thing I read, sorry, when I look down, it gets loud. Another thing I read on a page about landing pages is something this guy calls attention ratio. And that means the number of conversion goals over the number of interactive elements or calls to action or things the person can do on that page. Ideally, you want that to be one. You want them to have one thing they're trying to do and one clear way to do it, and you don't want to distract them with other kinds of things. Now, that's not always true. Sometimes we'll talk about it when we get to details of a page. Sometimes you have to have other things, like a sample issue or something. But generally speaking, you want one goal and one clear action. All right, where's the sale taking place? We talked about that. Okay, now, I'm sorry?
You're good.
Okay, so the integration with the marketing copy, you don't want somebody to get an email that has one design and go to a page that looks different, because it's jarring. Once again, on almost any web page, you're thinking, how did I get here, and why am I here, and what am I going to do? And if you get an email that looks like one thing with one logo, and you go to a landing page that looks completely different, the people are confused. So you want to get rid of that friction and try to make sure that there's a common look, at least to some extent. Maybe it's just your logo, maybe it's your name, but to some extent you want them to look similar. And that also gets back into your branding. If you have different kinds of sites, maybe you have several different sites for different publications, then you want the email to mix with the page that you're driving those people to. All right.
Go back one.
Yeah, I think I covered all that stuff. How did they get here? Okay, so you want to have message before brand. Now, branding is important. I just said you want to make sure that it looks the same. But the message is more important than the brand. So if you have a conflict between the two, make sure that the message and the goal and what you're trying to drive them to do takes precedence. Now, one thing we did, I went too many pages. One thing I did with my colleague Chris Moffo a while ago is we were designing a landing page, and we had a designer do the landing page, somebody who is an art type, and they design great direct mail pieces. It's a mistake to have the design people design your landing pages, because design and direct response are two different things. You really want the message, the goal, what you're trying to get them to do to be the big issue. You want to carry on the conversation from whatever marketing you're doing in AdWords or in the email or however onto the landing page. And you want to make sure that the message match, the design matches, but don't overdo the design. Now, I asked Bob Bly's permission to use that. Still a page ahead of myself. I don't know how to get back.
The red button.
It's not working. Okay, I'll just do it the manual way. Well, never mind. It doesn't. What are the elements of a landing page? So there's a whole bunch of things that you can put on a landing page. There's the banner, there's the headline, there's the subhead, there are images, there's the copy, testimonials, credibility builders, like a guarantee. There's keywords. You want to make sure that they're seeing the words that they expect to see. There's the form, and where you're going to put the form on the page. And there's navigation. Now, what do you guys think about having site navigation on a landing page? Any thoughts about that? I don't know. I think it's sort of a mistake. Some people think that you should have site navigation on every page on your site, and you want to have that common branding and look throughout. So the web designers will tell you you want the navigation there, but it makes another thing for them to do that's not getting the action that you're trying to get them to take. So I think you should test that. Try it with the navigation, try it without, and see what happens. It might not be a good idea. You want to do a squint test on your page. Look at your page and then squint at it and see what stands out. You want to make sure your call to action stands out and is the more obvious thing on the page. So here are Bob Bly's 10 rules. I think they're pretty clear. Credibility, guarantee is credibility. Things like this site is secure. You want to have that kind of thing. Now here, capture the email address of non-buyers. We're going to talk about that later on. I want to get your ideas on how to do that. Testimonials build a lot of credibility. He says that for the copy, you want to use a lot of bullets. You want to make it easy to scan. You want to be able to go through this stuff quickly. You want to arouse curiosity, and you want an emotional hook. You guys can read all this stuff. I think the biggest issue that I've seen in landing page design is make sure that you're really focused on what it is you're trying to get them to do and get rid of anything that's going to get in the way. You want to get rid of friction and get rid of distractions. So I think that's it for me for a little bit. All right.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for not violating any fire laws this morning. I appreciate that. I'm going to show you a couple of the landing pages we do at Business Management Daily. We've been around since 1937. Back then, we had almost no web traffic. It was terrible. But with landing pages, we've built up quite nicely. We have probably a couple hundred landing pages amongst all our products. And we're going to look at 3 different kinds of landing pages that we do at BMD. So the first one is a click-through page, which is what I think of as the classic landing page. You're talking about the product benefits for people who are finding you for the first time. If someone's found you through another piece of marketing, social media, web, whatever, then you're restating and reprising the benefits of your offer. And I am a strong believer in no navigation. I would do one thing at a time. Just like you wouldn't try to sell 4 different newsletters with a direct mail piece. You are trying to do one thing with your landing page. And really one of the dirty little secrets about good e-marketing, it's just good marketing. So just focus, sell one thing at a time. We do not have internet today, but in your presentations, the URLs are available. As you can see right here, we can't click on them, but I'll give you an example of our click-through page, our landing page. This is for our annual Labor Law Conference takes place at Bellagio in Las Vegas. Let's take a look at Bob Bly's rules and see if we're following the rules. Did we build credibility? Well, we're the 11th annual, so we've been around for a while. We know that the Bellagio is a very famous hotel. People have heard of it. And frankly, our registrations went up by about 15% when we went from a less well-known hotel, still very nice, to Bellagio. So I think that gives us a little bit of credibility early on. Are we capturing the email address? Yes, absolutely. If you scroll down a little bit, there is a place to capture an email on this page. And you can see them if you decide to go online and take a look at that. Testimonials we do not use in the landing page. Might not be a bad idea, but I think we've built credibility elsewhere. Bullets, you can see on the right side there are bullets. Further down in the copy, there are also some bullets. I'm a big believer in varying the length and width of paragraphs. Go from wide, go to bullets, do things on an angle, keep things visually interesting. And we do achieve that with this landing page. Arouse curiosity in the headline. I'll give us an incomplete on that. I think a little bit. I mean, who doesn't want to do more with less? So I think that's not exactly a headline, but I think it does sort of achieve that one. Emotional hook? No. Don't have that. Timely and current? Absolutely. It's an upcoming conference. Solve the reader's problems? Again, doing more with less. Who doesn't want to do that? I think it does address that issue. Offering bonuses, we do offer bonuses. Again, if we were able to scroll down, you'd see that everyone who registers for the conference gets 6 months of our employment law newsletter and 6 months of our online HR information service. Stress the money back guarantee, we absolutely do that later on. Again, as Greg said, the way to establish more credibility. So I think I'm going to give us a solid B+ on this one. And the conference has been doing well, so we must be doing something right. So the next page we're going to talk about is a lead gen page, what we call the conversion page. You're found either by a piece of direct mail or an ad in one of your publications or via a pay-per-click campaign. Obviously, search is a very important thing to us. Social media is a contributor to our traffic. I wouldn't call it a main driver, but it's all cumulative. Every little bit helps. So when they find you, however they do find you, the landing page, the rapid conversion landing page, if any of you saw Ed's session yesterday, we kind of follow the Makota method. We were former clients. We have learned enough. So we kind of follow the Makota model of offering multiple opportunities to give us an email address, not only because you never know where in a page someone's going to come onto your page, but also you might say something that they don't want to hear later on in the page, and if you get their email up front, you have their email. Let's take a look at one of our RCLPs, Rapid Conversion Landing Pages, for one of our products, a very popular product in our secretarial product line, Office Administration. It's on minute taking. It's been a very successful product for us, not only as a standalone webinar and a CD. We use it as a premium for our Administrative Professional Today newsletter. We are looking to launch an admin conference based on a lot of the success that we've had with taking effective meeting minutes, which is the name of the full webinar. But this is an excerpted executive summary from that webinar. And you can see that we're asking for the email address right up front. If you scroll down, you will see that we repeatedly ask for it. We ask for it 6 times. And we find that the most frequently entered email slots would be at the front and at the very bottom. The front, of course, because you've captured their attention, you have that graphic, which always helps. And as you go down, the people who are going to read further on obviously are more interested. So if they've read 6 screens about this minute-taking premium, they have pretty much qualified themselves. So we do see the best results on the first request for email and on the last request for email. So,
have you tested long versus short copy on these pages?
Yes, and I'm going to talk about that. Thank you. There are a couple of different things we've tested on landing pages. I might as well talk about it right now. We have tested long copy versus short copy, and depending on the market, it can be longer or shorter copy. We find with the admin market, our admins, verticals we're in are HR, leadership, admin, office tech, which is kind of an offshoot of admin. You have to learn to get more out of your Excel programs, things like that, and then management. So on the leadership related products, shorter copy is better. They're C-suite folks or people aspiring to the C-suite, and they just want to get their information and get out. The admins and the HR, which is also kind of a pink-collar profession increasingly, like not only longer copy, but they like a story. We've tested long copy versus short copy, and HR and admin, the longer copy has won. Sometimes, I shouldn't say that, for our online product, maybe because it's more tech savvy, the shorter copy has won out, as has a listing of product benefits rather than a story. We've tried elaborate stories. Jane was frustrated at work because, and it did okay, better on the admin front than on the leadership. HR was somewhere in the middle. So yes, we have definitely tested both the kind of copy we've done and the length of the copy. And it depends. How's that for an answer? But anyway, the landing page, feel free to go up online and check this out. It gives a good list of product benefits, and it's been very effective for us. Another kind of landing page, the third kind we're talking about today, is the Cuba Gooding Jr. page, also known as the order page, or show me the money. It's a landing page. It's not a lead gen. You're going for the order here, so obviously they've read enough to go and make the order. The landing page we saw for the LEAP conference a couple of screens ago leads right to the order page, the Give Me the Money page. It's the last click. We go through the terms. We express the guarantee again. Obviously, we give them the price. And then we use graphics. We use an upsell. You can't really see it on this page. This is for one of our more popular webinars in the business etiquette field, which we do with the Emily Post Institute. And this one actually has two premiums. Not only can you get the free book on Mastering Business Etiquette and Protocol, which is not by Emily Post, it's by us, you also get a free month of access to our executive leadership website. A lot of leaders are interested in business etiquette. Poor business etiquette can literally destroy a multi-million-dollar deal. So this has been a popular product with our executives, with our leadership crowd. And again, if you scroll down a little further, we do upsell to our season pass. Everyone, some of you, are people doing, I'm assuming a lot of people doing webinars. Who's offering a season pass or an all-access pass? Anybody? A couple of folks. Very simply, if you have a number of webinars in the same vertical, you can do a la carte, or let's say you have 20 webinars in an area, one subject matter that would cost $200 each. You can do a $9.95 offer and give them blanket access to all of your webinars. And all of our webinar order pages, actually it's on the landing page also, but it's more prevalently, more successful on the order page, that when you scroll down, you get a chance not just to go to this webinar, which is why they came here in the first place, but to sign up for a full year of them. So we use graphics to establish the visual aspect of things. We have a guarantee later on with credibility, and we do upsell. So those are the three kinds of landing pages that we use, and I'm going to hand this back to Greg, who's going to pick it up on hotspots.
Thank you. So once again, I'm borrowing from Bob Bly. He says these are the things on the page to test. Now, we've tested most of these things on different pages. I want to talk a minute about the image. We have our publication, the Kiplinger letter. We had an image of the Kiplinger letter and the premiums you would get along with the Kiplinger letter over on the side. And that page did very well. We tested it with our email campaigns. And then we decided, well, let's try testing the image of the letter against a picture of Knight Kiplinger. And the picture of Knight Kiplinger did better. It had, you didn't learn anything about the premiums. In the previous page, you saw the Kiplinger letter and all the extra stuff you get. And then we changed that to just a picture of Knight Kiplinger standing there. And that page outperformed the page with the premiums. So that was kind of odd. So I said, well, let's try that on the tax letter. So we did the exact same test on the tax letter and got the opposite result. Showing the newsletter with the premiums did better than either a picture of Knight or a picture of the tax letter editor. So one thing, and this Adam was pointing this out earlier with his different markets, respond differently. So you can't necessarily take something that works on one page for one market and apply it in other places. Sometimes you have to test different things for different groups. And has anybody else seen that sort of thing? Any of you do landing page testing? And have you seen different kinds of results in different markets? Yeah. Yeah, we find that we have different groups of people for different publications, and we have different demographics, and you can't necessarily do the same thing for the different groups. So these things are all pretty straightforward. The logo, you want to make sure that the logo is consistent with how you drove people here, that whole thing about the design. You want to, the security generator, something like this is a secure site, or we won't abuse your email address, or money back guarantee, all those kind of things. You want to test that. You want to test the position and visibility of it, and how much you're going to say about that. Sometimes those things might be too much and might make people nervous. I'm testing right now on one of our pages. We have, if you don't want to order online, you can call, because a lot of our subscribers are older and they don't trust submitting orders on a web form, so they would rather make a phone call. So we added a section at the bottom with a picture of a customer service rep with a phone number and say, call this number, give this key. And we don't actually get a lot of calls, but adding that helped with the page. But now I'm testing it again to have it with the phone operator and without the phone operator to see which works. But those are the kind of things you want to do to build credibility and to make them have a little more confidence in the
also with the older market, because the other side of our business is an investment advisory service. The older folks may not have the bandwidth and the speed that you may have, obviously, in a business situation. So when you're reaching out to consumers, older consumers especially, you might want to have that phone option, because their pages may not be loading, they may not have the speed that they want, and they may get frustrated.
And it might become increasingly important with the same issue we were talking about before with people on smartphones. It might be a whole lot easier to just call and place the order than it is to try to fill it out on the phone. So it might be worth testing. I'm doing a test in our store right now where only on the mobile devices there's a PayPal option. On the regular pages, they have to fill out the form, but on the mobile, it's PayPal. Now, so far, I don't know if there's any kind of benefit from that, but I think those kinds of experiences, we're going to have to go through that a lot to figure out what works in this new environment. Okay, now when you do testing, I use the Google platform for testing. In AdWords, in Analytics, there's an option to do experiments. Now, it used to be more robust than it is. It used to have A/B and multivariate testing. Multivariate, you could change a whole bunch of items on the page at the same time. Now, it's basically just A/B testing, which isn't very great. But if you're going to do A/B testing, here are some things you should make sure that you have. Make sure that you have somebody in the marketing department who understands how this stuff works. You don't want it to be dependent on the IT guys to do this. You want somebody in marketing who understands it. Now, you have, with the Kiplinger publications, we just sold the Kiplinger agriculture letter. But back when we were trying to sell the agriculture letter, it's a very small market. So what we had to do was do tests on the higher performing pages and then take what we learned from those and transfer it over to the agriculture market. Now that contradicts what I said before, which is different markets respond differently. But sometimes you don't have any choice. We simply didn't get enough volume on those pages to do a legitimate test. So we had to learn from our high volume pages and then apply that to the low volume pages. So I think that's another thing you could just think about is if this does well on the high volume pages, it might work on the low volume pages. The other thing to think about is what would Amazon do? Pick out what they would do as a best practice there.
When you're testing pages, Greg, are you toggling back and forth between each offer every one that comes on, or do you leave something up for 2 weeks and then the B side for 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah, good question. No, it's simultaneous. So in the experiments section in Google Analytics, you have a primary page and you have as many other test panels as you like, and it takes every visitor and directs them into those different pages. Now, one thing that's kind of strange on the Google Experiments page is by default, it doesn't do a 50-50 split, or it doesn't, by default, it doesn't go evenly through all the panels. You have to go into the advanced settings and set that, which I think is ridiculous. Why would you not want to do that? But Google is thinking of it from the perspective of, we're going to display the page that gets more conversions, because that's what they do with ads in AdWords, right? So they do the same kind of thing in your experiments. But you don't want to do that with your experiment. Your experiment should be a fair split between the different panels. You want to look at different devices and screen sizes. You want to test the big things. Don't spend a whole lot of time testing some small element on a page until you've tested the bigger things, the image, the headline, the form, whether you have too many items on the form, that kind of stuff.
We
Test
have a
that
no
stuff
tweaking
first.
rule. We don't tweak, we test.
Okay.
It's tempting to just change a color or something like that, but we will go big, as you
Right.
said.
Yes, exactly. Do the things that are actually going to move the needle, not just some little thing. All right. Okay, always run a head-to-head split test of your control versus the winning combination. So for example, let's say you have 4 different pages that you're testing, and one of them comes out to be the winner. Do a follow-up where you take your previous control against just that one. Do just those 2. Sometimes you don't get the result you expect. Sometimes you do a 4-panel test and this panel comes out better, but then you do 2-panel tests and the other one comes out better. Testing can drive you crazy because things are very strange. Things will seem to be one way and then you test it again another time and it's different. So you have to just keep testing. Ideally, you want to limit a test from places that have a common source. You don't want to be testing the same page from your AdWords campaign that you're also driving people from email because it's a different audience. The people who read the email know a lot more about the product because they read your email, and also they're on your email list. They're your customers. And then the people who are coming from AdWords they might be totally different people. So if you're trying to mix those 2 into one page and do a test, you're not getting a fair test. You want to limit the test to a common audience. You want to keep things simple as much as possible. You want to get rid of distracting stuff as much as possible. Now, sample issue could be considered a distraction because rather than buying your publication, I'm going off to read your sample issue. But it also builds credibility. So you have to test that. Sometimes it's a good idea. We have found that having a sample issue is crucial for selling our newsletters.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you want to look at the whole process. Sometimes you have multiple stages to a process. You have the information page, and then you have a click here button, and then you have the page where you start to collect the information, and then you have the 3rd page where you collect some more information. You want to look at that entire process. If you optimize one page and say, okay, now I've made this one better, has that made your overall rate better? Sometimes it's easy to make one page perform better and mess up the whole process. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the whole process, not just one page of it. Keep records of your tests. Keep records of your tests. Share what you learn with other people in your department. It's very frustrating when you find out that somebody else has done a test and found out that it was better to do this thing and you didn't even know about it and you kept doing things another way. I said you want to test your high volume pages first. So get in your analytics and find out where people are and which pages are getting more traffic. Also, when you're thinking about a test, you want to think about, why am I testing this? What is it about this? You don't just want to tinker, as Adam was saying. You don't want to go in and just change things for changing things' sake. You want to think about, what is it that I'm testing and why? And clarifying that goal, what it is you're trying to accomplish, helps you to come up with a better test. You want to think about other issues that might affect the validity of your test. And I'm going to give an example from way back when I was working on natural gas publications. We had a telemarketing campaign that just did absolutely awful. And I found out a month later that the telemarketing campaign was going on during bid week. So all the gas marketers were frantically on the phone all day long trying to get their bids ready for that month. And the last thing they wanted to do was talk to somebody about buying our publication. So we could have blamed the campaign. Was it the copy in the campaign? Was it the way we tried to present the offer? It was none of those things. It was that the people had no time for us. So in a similar way, you want to think about other kinds of external issues that might be affecting your test. Is there something in the news that's related to the topic in your publication? Is there some other thing going on that's going to change why you got that result?
And since you and I both do text publications, we've learned the hard way not to do anything during February or March.
That's right, yeah. So you have to think about those external factors and bear that in mind when you look at the results of your test. Okay, now this is a silly slide, it has one thing on it. How to capture the emails of non-buyers. Now in Ed's section yesterday on how to capture emails. He said there's a way, when somebody enters an email on a form, to capture that before the person hits the submit button. Does anybody know if that's possible?
I think that what he was trying to show was that example on the first landing page.
Mm-hmm.
You just collect first name, last name, email,
Right.
so that when they get to page number 2 and you're asking for more data, you're asking for money, you're doing the pricing, at that point of the email, you already have the email
Right.
from previously.
And that might be what he was mentioning, and Bob Bly recommends that same sort of a technique. I'm not positive it's a great idea because you never know whether having additional pages is going to help or hurt. Sometimes it's better to have a single page where everybody does it and they're done. Mm-hmm. But in other cases, having a cart where you add to the cart and then you go to your billing and you go to your shipping and all that kind of stuff, that seems to work too. So you have to test the whole thing. But I'll bet you, I want to talk to some of my geek friends, I'll bet you there's a way using JavaScript or something to collect that email when it's entered. Because you can do other things when people enter stuff on a page. So anyway, I'll find out.
Yep.
If I get an answer, I'll post it to the SIPA listserv.
And for us, we don't even go as far as asking first name, last name. We just try to get that email on the first screen, and we can research them later on in a number of different ways. For example, we have some state-related HR publications, and we can do a reverse append on, if it's at kiplinger.com, we know it's in the District of Columbia, for example, and if we had a DC specific, it's usually more California, New York, we can pitch them a specific offer. We can time the emails that we're sending them so it's hitting them at the right time of the business day. So we have experimented with asking for more data, and we've come down to the point where we're just asking for that email on the first screen. If they go on and give us more, that's great. If not, we still have that email address, and we can not only promote to it, but we can learn about them in other ways.
All right, now.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit, and I do mean a little bit, about video landing pages. Upbounce.com is a very good resource, by the way. So the video landing pages can increase conversions by 80%. I spoke to a woman at a conference a couple of years ago working for Eagle Publishing who said she had octupled her conversion rate. So I don't know if that went from 1 order to 8, but still, she was a very big advocate of video landing pages. And we're in an increasingly video world, which scares the heck out of a lot of us publishers, but you got to adapt and change with the times. Why do people like video? Those of us who binge watch, I try to keep myself to 6 hours a day, but I never can. You will stay on a video longer than you'll stay on reading an entire page. And generationally, that's even more true. People's attention span in print is diminishing all the times. But video, people will watch. People literally spend entire weekends binge watching their favorite show. It's a less intense version for the video landing page. But they'll stay with you for 20 minutes, where they might stay with you for 30 seconds with a print piece. If you feature your employees, the trust factor is raised significantly. Amy Africa, who's a consultant, points out that people have been looking at each other's faces for millions of years, but have only been reading things for several hundred years. That human interface, whether it's a static picture of a human being, or it's obviously the video that we're talking about right now, can really increase the connection between you and your prospect. Sure. If you haven't seen Amy Africa, I strongly recommend you. She's spoken at SIPA in the past. Another thing about video that's helpful, people are lazy. Prefer to watch versus read, especially if you can't find the remote. So watching is also easier than reading. Let me show you an example. Well, there's a little more, I forgot. This is actually a good point, because I was talking to someone about this. When I say video, you don't need to get your CEO into makeup and do an elaborate script and get all the lighting and hire an expensive consultant. Video can simply mean printed words scrolling across a screen. That's what that woman at Eagle Publishing did. You can do animation in PowerPoint. It's not that difficult, I know, because we did a webinar on animation in PowerPoint. So you don't have to worry about an elaborate video presentation, just something that people can watch, and it's shiny, bright images. People will stay with you much more than they will, as a rule, than they will with print. So I'm going to show you that video, and no one can resist clicking the triangle. I mean, everyone wants to watch that video, even if it's not porn. So let's take a look. This is our video landing page for, what a shocker, PowerPoint animation techniques. And if you go on this page, you'll be able to click on there, and it's not Melissa, who's a great speaker. she's a very, very dynamic speaker, and we have other things with her on video. But this one is simply an animation. It's like a go-to-meeting kind of thing where we take over the screen and the cursor clicks on different aspects of PowerPoint, and it's dynamic and it shows the animation, and it also shows the process of creating the animation, and people stick with it. And this has been a very successful landing page and very successful product for us. And people, I mean, it stands to reason that if you're doing something on video, you'd better damn well have a video landing page. But it can work for anybody for the reasons we just talked about, the visual aspect, faces versus words, and people's general laziness. So.
Just a side note on this. This is an animated GIF that's on that page?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. You can do the same thing in an email. You can put an animated
Yes.
GIF in an email. And I've been getting emails from Netflix that do that, where they show you, it's almost like a miniature preview of the show
Right.
in the email, which I think is kind of cool.
Not advancing. Oh, there it is. Wait, this is the next
That's
section.
not us. Okay.
Okay, so that's our show, folks.